Welcome to the Wheelbarrow Profits Podcast, where you get multifamily investing made real. Learn from top players in the real estate investment world as they share their secrets with you and discover proven strategies on apartment investing that actually work. To learn more about Wheelbarrow Profits, visit jakeandgino.com, your one-stop shop for everything multifamily. Now to your hosts, Jake and Gino.
Hello, everybody. This is Jake Stenziano, host of the Wheelbarrow Profits Podcast, here with my co-host, the multifamily mentor, the coach, the chef, the father of six, the best-selling author, the G-Daddy, Gino Barbaro. Gino, how's it going?
Stenziano, I'm doing good. You finally got the lighting going on in the background, huh? He's in Florida today, my friends. No background.
A little Florida sunshine. So today's guest is Al Williamson. Al is a civil engineer and author of multiple real estate books, but his passion lies in creating surprisingly beautiful yet affordable housing. He is best known for publicly documenting his journey towards generating enough ancillary income to cover the first mortgage of his 8-unit apartment building. Al is a proud family man who now finds himself focused on corporate, short-term, and flexible-term housing and is trying to find, should I be a full-time investor or should I not? So we'll get into that today. Al, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
So we're really happy to have you. Tell us about your background and how you got started in real estate investing.
Okay. Humble beginnings. So, I was at a church picnic. I was going to get married. So I had some older guys talking to me, and they suggested that we not buy a house, but buy a duplex instead. So that was 20-some years ago. And the numbers came to me easily. I just read everything in the library back then, no internet. And moved my wife into a threeplex, a three-unit building, squished her into one of the smaller units. And she gave me hell for like 3 years or so straight until the place quadrupled on us. And we were off to the races then.
So the light bulb went off real early in your career, huh? I mean, I give you a lot of credit for stuffing her in there because I don't know if I would have lasted after
no more
3 years.
Stuffing wives than anything. Say all right.
She's a good woman. Good woman.
That's great. So Al, why real estate for you? What draws you? What attracts you to real estate?
Oh, you can express yourself through real estate as well as build your wealth. So I really enjoy that. I mean, whatever you choose to do. Me, I choose to use it as it's kind of my missionary zone. My real estate. I like helping people with my real estate. I like generating extra cash so we can do different things for my family as well. And the creativity side, I love being able to experiment with my rentals and grow my cash flow that way. I just choose not to go the well-beaten path, the well-worn path, which I know well. It's just not as interesting to me.
Mm-hmm. So can you give me an idea of how you express yourself and how you help people with real estate?
Well, for example, I started off in a redevelopment zone. It was in an inner city, a lot of bad stuff going on, a lot of negative stuff, and we bought one of the largest apartment building we could on that block. And then we started picking up trash, keeping the block clean, grooming, and that put pressure on other people. We started throwing block parties once a year and placing the bounce house in front of the drug dealer's house, running the drug dealers out.
They didn't come out of the bouncy house, though? They were hopped up on drugs. They probably enjoy that, no?
Well, they knew they couldn't intimidate people anymore, so they had to go. So it's not good to be a drug dealer when you got neighbors talking to the police in the middle of the street.
Gotcha.
So, I mean, how do you get into something like that? I mean, is there any kind of education you had to do, or is it just, I'm going to do it and that's it? Because most of the stuff you hear, everyone says, stay away from D neighborhoods, stay away from D neighborhoods. I mean, what was the vision? How did you get that idea of let me go do this and let me take this chance?
Well, that threeplex that we bought into was in a matured redevelopment zone.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason it quadrupled was because of the redevelopment activities going on.
Mm-hmm.
So we went for the ride the first time, and then we said, hey, let's get in on the ground floor and make something happen. Because you're young, you're arrogant, you think you can you can affect the neighborhood. So we dove in, and no books. There is one now that I wrote, but no books at the time.
Mm-hmm.
It was just people just didn't leave bread trails for that particular, how a landlord could participate in redevelopment to shorten the time frame that it takes to turn the neighborhood around.
So I got Jake over here. He's a young, arrogant guy. He wants to get into real estate. How does he get into real estate? How does he start doing what you want to do? I'm not young anymore. I use myself, but I'm not young. So,
well, your opportunity is right there on the fringe between a good neighborhood and a troubled neighborhood. Everyone knows there's that one street that everything changes, and you start on that one street. If there's a lot of opportunities, you have to have a supportive police department. Political politics have to be right, and you have to have a good housing stock.
Mm-hmm.
So if you find that there is something like that in every city, you just work on that fringe to make that look like the good neighborhood. That's essentially what you do.
Would you call that your I guess I like to call it your massively transformative purpose? Is that what you think your purpose is in real estate? Really to go in and affect these neighborhoods and make something positive, and by the way, make money while doing it?
It was at the time. Now I like to make sure I help other people. It's like replicate myself.
Mm-hmm.
Try and have something in which I have. So some other people have kind of taken on, and I coach them along in other parts of the United States. So that's success for me, to make sure I get the word out how to do it, and also I'm there to coach them when it gets hard, because there's always, you're not appreciated until until years later. You're the bad guy until years later, until the jobs come in, and then people thank you if at then. But yeah, you gotta have a thick skin for sure.
You know what you just defined the definition of a mother. Mothers are not appreciated until their kids get to be a lot older.
Right.
Then all of a sudden the kids grow up and go, "Mom, you did a pretty good job, Ma." You know what I'm saying? So I think that's funny. We were talking off air that you have that hour commute going on right now. What's that stepping point of wanting to make real estate full time, or are you going to keep it as a part-time passion right now?
Yeah, I'm right there. I'm right at that cusp right now. I turned 50 last year, and I'm like, I've been enjoying the journey. I enjoy what I do. But the next challenge, and I know how to do engineering, and if I get this Golden Gate job under my belt, then that's kind of the tops for a bridge builder. If you get to work on the Golden Gate, then everything else is downhill, right? So the next thing is to make the jump and figure out what full-time investing looks like.
Well, what does it look like to you?
Well, it's got to have challenges. I don't see myself on a beach and just relaxing. I like participating in the community. I like just having the freedom to do what I want to do on my own terms more. I like keeping things small. I don't see myself with a gazillion units. I like to make just a handful of units and do it that way. I would love to, and I have a kind of an outline of how I can do it with just my 8-unit apartment building, replace my engineering income. Mm-hmm. But California market's really out of control as far as hot right now. So I'm kind of waiting for. I'm kind of just building up my cash, just piling it up, and waiting for things to kind of fall apart, so I can do the Warren Buffett. I want to buy when everyone's fearful this time. This will be my third cycle.
Your third cycle. So
my third real estate cycle, yeah.
So why don't you talk about that eightplex? When did you buy the eightplex?
2002. And
what were the numbers on it as far as price, as far as cash flow? How did that work out?
It was $340,000, and it was $375 a unit. That's what the monthly rent was. Sometimes $400, and it was the rents were depressed because it was the gang central, prostitution central. Yeah, of that block, it was the problem property, but it had great bones. Built in 1965, good redwood. All those things were in place. So,
and how did you find it?
Well, I had been stalking it and it stayed on the market for a year, and I keep driving by it, and it was in the right spot as far as location, freeway, schools, and in this redevelopment zone. So it had a clouded title, so I had to work through that. It took me about 6 months to work everything out, actually close on my loan and all those types of things.
So walk me through the repositioning. I mean, how is it now? I mean, how is the cash flowing now? Where are the rents now? Where's the value now? And what did you do to get the property up and running more efficiently?
So I went through traditional landlording. The first thing I did was I rented the whole thing out to a nonprofit that was doing rehabilitation. So I did that for about a year just to have someone full-time managing it and to change interrupt the patterns that were happening there. Mm-hmm. Then we switched it on to traditional rentals, and in the process, from there I've gone to renting to medical students on the 4th-year rotations, and then towards Airbnb units, and now I'm more focused on traveling nurse corporate housing. As the neighborhood has improved, I'm able to do more things. So the rents right now for the same 300, I have one at $1,690 right now. The same thing.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to laugh. It's just a joke from where you came from. It's like unbelievable. That's great, man.
Wow.
I've taken it all the way up there, and we're trying to. I'm putting in new windows shortly, and that'll kind of justify me getting over $2,000 per unit.
It's great.
Wow. So, have you used Airbnb? I mean, we haven't spoken about Airbnb on this show. Have you used it with success? Do you like the model?
I like it now. I started with Airbnb in 2011 in San Francisco as a guest, and then I was playing with it. But in 2015 is when they switched over to their business travel ready category, where they focus on. They set up a category for people who didn't live who aren't home sharing. It's basically for landlords, for business travelers. Mm-hmm. And that's when I jumped all in and actually did some experiments, and it's been very good. Business travelers are completely different than tourists.
In what respect? How?
Well, the biggest thing is they're being reimbursed for their traveling expenses versus paying out of pocket. So they have a completely different mindset of what they want. Mm-hmm. And then there's different parts within the business travelers. There's travelers that get reimbursed an allowance and they can keep the difference, and there's travelers who just have to turn in receipts and they get reimbursed only up to a limit. So right now, with my traveling nurses, for example, they have a housing allowance. It's about $700 a week in Sacramento.
That's a lot of money.
They get to pocket the money that they don't spend. So they'll give me quite a bit of it before there's any friction. Mm-hmm. But the travelers who I'm switching to these travelers that I don't quite have fully identified yet, that don't get to keep the difference. They get a certain allowance, maybe $2,000 for housing. They can show receipts up to that, and they don't get to keep anything. Those guys are completely price insensitive. They'll give you the whole amount if you give them a Starbucks gift card. Or
the holy grail right there, huh? Get that Starbucks gift card going on those folks.
That's where I'm heading. That's how I'm planning on getting it over $2,000 a unit there.
Nice.
Wow. So, I mean, what do you think the value of the building is in California? Something like that's got to be worth $2.5 million. I mean, upwards of that.
Now, a place right around the corner just went on the market. An agent called me, and it's going for 980,000.
980. So what do you plan on doing with this? Are you going to continue to cash flow it? Are you going to refinance it, sell it, move into something bigger? What's your strategy?
If it gets over $1 million, I think it's time to it's time to 1031 to something else. It have to be out of state because everything's hot right now. Yeah, that's my problem. Is I like being involved in the community. I'm cash flowing so much, I don't know what I could replace it with right now.
Mm-hmm. That's a good problem to have, actually. So, maybe it's just time to sit. Have you ever thought, since you like the community, have you ever thought of moving out of state, locating and targeting a community that you'd like to move into and maybe affect it that way? Because I know a lot of California investors really are frustrated with the market, and they're like, I can't buy anything. There's nothing makes sense. Have you ever considered that route?
I have. And I'm thinking about it more and more. But I feel like I need to be there to do all the creative stuff that I do, and also to serve the people. It's really important to me that I'm serving the people around my rental properties. Mm-hmm. Essentially, my philosophy, and it's not all. I don't want to say anyone else's is bad. I just want to tell you about mine. Is that you have to give back directly to the neighborhoods that you're taking the money from. Mm-hmm. You have to fertilize exactly where you're extracting money from. So that's why block parties directly in front. That's why giving to the school after school programs and supporting the neighborhood associations. Just small donations. For example, I just give my neighborhood association $10 a month, and it allows them to buy sodas and things like that for their meetings. Mm-hmm. That means the world to them. Mm-hmm. And $25 to a Boys and Girls Club on their gas card so they can pick up kids. It's the world. It's literally the difference maker for them. Mm-hmm. They're that strapped with funding.
I had a similar experience. I go down to Harlem, so I deal a lot with the Franciscan friars, and same thing with down there. They have a lot of single resident occupants down there, and they're getting priced out. I mean, it's government housing. It's the housing down there. They're poor, so we help them run the soup kitchen down there. But at the same time, the problem down there is the government housing is not. They're not serving them properly because there's a lot of violence in there. There's a lot of drug activity in there. I think guys like you, and you can step in the market and help. There's a void in the marketplace there. So there's definitely a way for you to make money on that aspect. So I applaud you for that. It's something that the market definitely needs. Definitely.
Yeah, the government. I don't like government housing at all. I don't like any. I like solving problems for profit. That's the only sustainable way of doing it. Mm-hmm. Everything else. I did a lot of nonprofit work for about 3 years, and always looking for donations. It's not the way to go.
So how have you built your education company as far as writing books and all that? How is that formed?
Well, that happened out of the challenge. First of all, no, I couldn't. When I was buying into the inner city and trying to work with this redevelopment, I couldn't find any information out there. Mm-hmm. So I was fortunate enough, especially during this time when I was doing nonprofit work, I was sent to Harvard for 2 months, and we put together a action plan. And my action plan was about neighborhood, how a landlord could participate in the neighborhood. And I kept working on that, building that model up and that roadmap, and turned it into a book. And now I look back at it, I'm at the very peak where everything is just post-catalyzed, I call it, catalyzed stage, where everything is just, I only need to do a very little bit, and it's going on its own. Mm-hmm. I didn't realize how right I was. Looking back on that model is just, I think it's very helpful just to know where you are and what to do at the right time. So that's how that happened. And then unlike you, Gino, I love forced appreciation, and I love the magic of commercial multifamilies and the cap rate and the NOI. So I started focusing on what I could do to pay my mortgage, to generate enough side income to pay my mortgage.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a good stretch. That was really difficult to do.
Uh-huh.
But we did that in 2015. So and then I wrote a book about all the different things that I had researched, and that's the 40 Ways book, just so that other people didn't have to start from scratch. There's a lot of it out there, but it's kind of scattered, and I just wanted to piece together some things of what can be done. So now it was can you retire off of one small apartment building? And I've kind of sketched out that model. It looks like I'm able to pull out $2,000 per unit.
Mm-hmm.
So 16 grand is enough for me per month.
It's enough for me too.
I live a simple life.
Uh-huh. Same with me. So
yeah.
So
the next challenge is, can you retire off of one rental house?
Mm-hmm.
What would you need to do to buy one rental house? What kind of client switching would you need to do? You need to switch your class of client, and what kind of cash flow businesses do you need to stack on top of the? Can I give you an example of what I'm talking about?
Sure.
For example, one house with a Wi-Fi antenna that broadcasts to the neighbor surrounding it within like a half-mile radius could theoretically, I tried this experiment, it would have worked, could get enough people to pay for the Wi-Fi complimentary to pay their mortgage off and quite a bit more.
Wow.
I had trees. Trees were Sacramento's a city of trees. Trees were blocking my signal, but it would have worked with the subscription model. I call it the Starbucks model. You go to Starbucks, you buy the coffee, and you get the Wi-Fi complimentary, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was selling a newsletter, but you buy the newsletter and you get the Wi-Fi signal complimentary.
How much is a newsletter?
$15
a month
per month.
That's good. I like that.
Yeah.
So let me ask you a question. What's your best real estate investing tip or advice for the listeners?
It's to optimize your rentals after you buy them. Don't just keep buying and buying and buying it and never optimize. I mean, you can switch your client base.
Mm-hmm.
For example, I switched from Craigslist people to medical students, rotating, and then I switched from there to Airbnb people, and then I switched from there to traveling nurses and business travelers, and then I'm switching again. But each time I'm jumping up $400 or $500 for the same unit, and that's a net income.
Mm-hmm.
And my taxes stay the same. The wear and tear on my plumbing and roof stay the same. My cost basis stays the same, and it's just increasing my net income without all the downside of all the risk associated with getting sued or having to, I don't care to have employees. I don't see myself with employees besides virtual ones. So I don't have a staff or anything like that. It's just
great.
More net income.
Mm-hmm.
What other ways do you optimize in your property?
Let me give you some extreme ones, because you guys did on your episode that you talked about forced appreciation. You guys got a lot of the good ones. Let me give you some ones that you missed. Like you can place honeybees on your property.
Now we're getting into it. Talk to me about the honeybees. This is sweet. I'm taking some notes.
Get it zoned agricultural.
Uh-huh.
And drop your property taxes there.
He sounds like Bon Jovi now in the Blackberry Farms.
You can also, let's go extreme. Naming rights. If you have the traffic counts, put a sign out, naming rights of your building, advertise for whoever needs the signage. Especially if the city zones or zoning laws prohibitive, you can, as a business owner, multifamily, you can change your signage. And so there's advertising rights. If you have traffic count, there's all kinds of advertising things you can do with your building. Your building you can place a billboard on your building, or you can make your billboard part billboard. There's different laundry services. that you can update. You have to have an entrepreneur working with you to use up your laundry machines during the day. And when your tenants aren't there, that's a laundry delivery service if you wanted to help out with that. You guys did storage. I thought that was really good. But if you turn storage around so that you rent to people who don't live on your property, it's even better. The laws are different. It's not you're not messing with the landlord-tenant laws where you can't lock someone out. You're dealing with the lien laws. Mm-hmm. So it's best to rent storage out to people who don't live on your property, and that opens you up to making a lot more money from your people in your neighborhood. It's essentially you don't have to make all your money from your tenants. There's just helping out your neighborhoods, putting together an association to mow lawns, for example. Just you running that can eliminate the cost of your gardener. Just having them do other people's yards as well. So by just extending yourself beyond your property lines, you can make your property safer, for sure, a more desirable neighborhood, and lower your costs and increase your income by looking beyond your property line.
Thinking outside the box, Jake.
That's right.
That's right. Jake and I, we liked Napoleon Hill, and I think Jake made a great point. I think a couple weeks ago, if you read the Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, all the gurus today and all the personal development guys are really pulling from him because he talks about infinite intelligence, he talks about God, and he talks about a lot of that, and it's really about desire, and it's about special knowledge, and it's all about faith. It's all about working within, taking personal responsibility, and everyone's really basically built a framework around what that book is all about.
Of that book.
Yeah, and what happens when you're younger, you read it when you're younger, and it doesn't make sense. But as you get older in life and you start progressing in your life and things start happening, and if you can really pin that book down and read those 13 steps to riches and really truly apply them, I think you have to have faith. And I think he had a lot of faith. I think he did a lot of education. I think he was a smart guy, but he surrounded himself with really smart people. He learned from smart people, and he took his example from there, and he believed in God. I think that was a big for him. And I think that is really, if you looked at all the guys speaking to that, Jake made that point, I thought it was great. I never thought about it. They all take his principles and they all make it theirs. But I think he was like one of the first guys out there for personal development.
Yeah, absolutely.
What project are you excited about right now?
I'm doing some things. I'm switching again my tenant base. So I do a little bit of affordable housing in my multifamily. But I'm switching towards these finding the Holy Grail, the tenant that a car allowance and a housing allowance that only gets reimbursed on the receipts, because I'm going to rent them a car and a unit.
That's awesome.
Electric car because it's preferred parking in Sacramento.
Oh.
Talk about maximum.
So yeah, that's the Holy Grail. They'll put it around $2,500 per unit.
That's awesome.
Wow, that's nice.
What's the best way for listeners to get a hold of you?
I have a blog, so Al at leadinglandlord.com, and that's the best way to get my attention. You can also reach me on LinkedIn. I'm all over the place with LinkedIn and Facebook. There's the Leading Landlord blog and Facebook page as well.
Perfect.
Very good. Al, it was great having you. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks, Al.
Thanks, guys.
We trust that you enjoy the Wheelbarrow Profits podcast. Visit jakeandgino.com, your one-stop shop for everything multifamily. See you next time when Jake and Gino share more of their investing secrets with you.